time I want to share to you about my proposal for my final task, and the title is The Analysis of Rhyme in the Poetry 138 by William Shakespeare. In the chapter 1, we have background of the research. Conventionally, literature consists of three genres, namely poetry, prose, and drama. Poetry is one of the oldest genres. If phrased, there are many definitions of poetry. In the traditional view, poetry is a variety of literature that is bound by these elements such as rhythm, rhyme, dimension, lines, and stanzas. Poetry is an empty object which doesn't contain and lifeless, but poetry comes to life when the reader gives an interpretation of meaning to the poem. And the poetry, also known as language deviation, which is a language deviation for the poet's vision of the poet conveyed. What needs to be understood from the existence of language deviation is that the language of poetry is different from the everyday language the people use in communication. It could be that language that is often used every day happens deviation of meaning for the poet's vision can be achieved. In the meaning of poetry, it needs intense reflection to understand its meaning, especially in poems that use metaphorical diction. For example, when we hear songs sung by the band Leto, the songs he sang contain religious elements about love for the Creator, if viewed more deeply or through a science system. But sometimes the ordinary people judge that the songs of the Leto band contain love for the fellow humans. Through a collection of definitions made by Shannon Ahmad, Radopo quotes several definitions of poetry. According to Samuel Taylor Coleridge, poetry is the most beautiful word in the most beautiful arrangement. The poet chooses the words they are as precise and arranged as well as possible. For example, balance, symmetrical between one element and the other is very closely related, and so on. According to Carlyle, poetry is the result of musical thinking. Meanwhile, Wordsworth states that poetry is an imaginative feeling statement, that is, a feeling that is imagined. Danton 17 states that poetry is concrete and artistic human through in emotional and rhythmical language. Based on this various definition, it appears that several elements are summarized by Shannon Ahmad, namely poetry is emotion, imagination through ideas, tunes, rhythm, sensory inferences, word order, figurative words, destiny, and mixed feelings. We have formulation of problem. We have two. Second, the first is what distincts rhyme from other intrinsic elements in the poetry, and then how does rhyme affect a poetry. And then purpose of research, we have two. The first is to find out the difference between rhyme and intrinsic elements in other forms, and the second, to find out how rhymes affect a poem. Okay, the aims of the research. For writers, this research as a place to apply the knowledge that has been learned in the lecture bench opens up insight for writers about scientific research, about knowledge about intrinsic science that exists in poetry or other literary works, and then for readers as additional information and reference for developing science, especially in the field of literature. And the chapter 2, we have theoretical. In conducting this research, I used the theory of structuralism. By definition, structuralism means understanding the elements, namely the structure itself. In evaluating literary works, this theory is objective, where structuralism theory evaluates literary works through the stage of the intrinsic approach and the extrinsic elements approach. The study of structuralism literature doesn't treat a particular literary works as the object of study, but the object of study is the element of a literature. These elements make a set of abstract and general conventions and regulate the relationship of one element to another, so that it becomes a unified whole. Although the convention is social and exists in certain societies, and analysis conducted is only limited to the structure that exists apart from the outer or social reality. The main elements contained in literary works are divided into three types, namely the elements of prose, poetry, and drama elements. Here we will discuss poetry, in which the elements of poetry include themes, rhythm, rhyme, diction, poetry, and symbols. Okay. Methods of the research. The research method that will be used in this paper is applied in determining the elements contained in a poem. Data from this paper will be taken from a poem by William Shakespeare. This poem was chosen because the theme adopted by this poem is suitable to be the source of my research. Data collection from this paper will be carried out using library research. First, I will read the contents of the whole poem, and then the data will be collected by marking each word related to the topic. After the data is collected, then all data will be analyzed using intuitive methods, content analysis, and descriptive analysis. And the last, we have approach of the research. Researchers use the analysis of expressive approaches. This expressive approach places literary works as an outpouring speech and projection of the thoughts and feelings of the author. The author himself becomes the subject that gives birth to the production of combined perception, thought, and feelings. The practice of analysis with this approach leads to the search for the authenticity of the author's personal vision within the understanding of genetic structures in called worldview. Often, this approach seeks facts about the special character and experiences of writers who consciously or unconsciously have opened themselves in their work. Thus, conceptually and methodologically, it can be seen that the expressive approach places literary works as one, the experience of the author experience, 2, the product of the author's imagination that works with his perception, thought, and feelings, 3, the product of worldview author, methodically the work steps that can be done through this approach are giving a number of true perception and feeling of the author who are present directly or indirect in his work, and then mapping a number of true perception and feelings of the author found in his work into several factual categories of text in the form of the character, experience, and ideology of the author. Okay, maybe I think that's enough. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.